Hello and welcome back to World 360. What is Project 2025, a plan by American conservatives in the event of a Republican president in the upcoming US elections? Why are Singapore's neighbours upset at its exclusive deal with an American pop star? And what are the highlights of China's 2024 government work report? We answer this and more in today's episode. First up, Project 2025. As you know, the US presidential elections will be held in November this year, and Donald Trump and Joe Biden are most probably going to be the candidates for the Democrats and the Republicans respectively, which means it will be a rematch of the 2020 presidential elections. Recently, the Republican Party has seen some interesting churns. Mitch McConnell, a tall figure in the party, stepped down as Senate Republican leader. There are also divisions in the party on issues like the Russia-Ukraine war and the US's role in it. Enter the Heritage Foundation, a major conservative think tank based in Washington, D.C., which has been influencing American policy making for years. Last month, this think tank, with the support of many other conservative groups in the U.S., launched Project 2025, which essentially provides a roadmap of how an administration should be run should Trump come back to power. Now, to support this, the think tank published an 800-page document titled Mandate for Leadership, the Conservative Promise, which lays out three things: a policy agenda, changes in personnel, and a 180-day playbook for a Republican president should that happen. Project 2025 is largely being viewed as an attempt by American conservatives to lay out a plan of action, given the previous Trump administration from 2017 to 2021 had some disarray. For example, the previous Trump administration had 3 different national security advisors, 4 White House press secretaries, and at times, unpredictable policies. So what are some major takeaways from the project's mandate? This document offers ways for the next Republican president to counter wokeism, China, and illegal immigration. Noting the rise of wokeism and what it views as erosion of family values in America, the document is sharply critical of the Republican Party's failure to address this problem. The Republican Party seems to have little understanding about what to do. Most alarming of all, the very moral foundations of our society are in peril, it stated. It also criticizes, and I quote, toxic normalization of transgenderism in the US, calling for restricted application of sex discrimination in the workplace. Let's not forget Trump's criticism against transgender people in 2017 when he said they should not be allowed to serve in the US armed forces. Now, the document also recommends setting up a Department of Life by rejecting abortion as healthcare. This comes almost a year after the US Supreme Court overturned the landmark Roe v. Wade ruling that recognized women's constitutional right to abortion and restored the ability of states to ban abortion. The document also called for a tightening of immigration laws, reducing visas for students from what it called enemy nations, and cuts in federal spending to American businesses that commit visa fraud and hire illegal immigrants. It even suggests ending T and U visas, arguing that victimization should not be a basis for immigration benefit. Now, T visas are for victims of trafficking, while U visas are for those who have suffered mental or physical abuse in certain crimes. The document even proposes a massive overhaul of government agencies, for example, dismantling the Department of Homeland Security, which was set up by the George Bush administration in the aftermath of the 9/11 terror attacks. Now, before we wrap up this topic, I'd recommend checking out our previous episode on how the many legal cases against Trump will affect his presidential run. So be sure to check that out. For our second topic, we're looking at Singapore, which has rattled many of its neighbours. Now, this isn't because of a foreign policy decision or a military maneuver. Rather, this is about an American pop star, Taylor Swift. The pop star is currently on a world tour, and before heading to Southeast Asia, the Singapore government inked an exclusive concert deal with her that allowed her to perform in Singapore, but not in any other nation in the region. It's important to remember that Swift has become nothing short of a phenomenon in the last few years, and her massive concerts reportedly helped boost the American economy at one point. She is now set to perform 6 shows in Singapore from March 2nd to 9th and isn't allowed to perform anywhere else in the region. Now, a lot of other Southeast Asian countries are complaining that her deal with Singapore deprives them of the tourism boom her concerts usually bring. Let's not forget that Singapore is a key member of the ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, which is a grouping of about 10 countries. Recently, ASEAN members Thailand and Philippines criticized Singapore's exclusive deal with Taylor Swift as unfriendly. Thailand's Prime Minister claimed that the Singaporean government subsidized the concerts with around $2 million to $3 million per show, with the condition that the singer not play anywhere else in Southeast Asia. But the Singapore Prime Minister has defended his decision by saying it was a successful arrangement that should not be seen as hostile or unfriendly to any others in the region. For our last topic, we're looking at an annual government work report from China. On Tuesday, China's top legislature, the National People's Congress, held its 14th session at the Great Hall of the People in Beijing. Chinese Premier Li Qiang delivered his first government work report at the meeting. This included China's goals in the economic and foreign policy spheres. Let's not forget that this comes at a time when the $18 trillion Chinese economy has been facing some major setbacks. This was something Chinese President Xi Jinping himself admitted during his New Year's speech earlier this year. Shortly thereafter, China released government data that showed a dip in exports for the first time since 2016. Along with this, China's property sector crisis and rising youth unemployment rate has only contributed to the economic slump we see today. Despite this, the Chinese legislature in its annual report set an ambitious GDP growth target for the country, saying it will aim for 5% in 2024. Li also said China's military budget would increase by 7.2% to about $230 billion US. Interestingly, he admitted that the external global environment has negatively affected the country's economic recovery from COVID, which could be seen as a reference to the Ukraine and Gaza war as well as the US-China rivalry. A report by the Associated Press noticed a difference in language on Taiwan during this very important meeting in Beijing. While last year's report had called for advancing the process of China's peaceful reunification, this year Li said they will be firm in advancing the cause of China's reunification. Thanks for watching. This is Pia Krishnankutty for ThePrint.